Hello, good evening. Welcome to a Prehistory Flash. I'm Michael Bott.
And I'm Rupert Soskin.
Usually, Prehistory Flashes are about reporting on new discoveries in prehistoric archaeology, but this time we're reporting on some reporting on a new discovery.
Yeah. It's not a new discovery, though, is it? It says it's a new discovery, but it's not a new discovery. No.
Yeah, but we'll get into that. So, good evening, everybody. Thank you for all of you with us already. Very, very good to see you. Anyway, we'd like to keep these as short as possible, so and in the moment. So we'll get. What's kicked this one off, Rupert? This is the first one of 2021. Strangely enough.
Off. Well, as many of you know, we are constantly trawling the world for archaeological news to bring you, and this time it's rare that there's an article that is just a whole everything from beginning to end. It's just mistake after mistake after misquote after misremembered fact after. It's just wrong, and we thought, well, we can't let that pass because. We do try to keep it real and bring you facts. And here's this thing that's in the media, and it's just wrong from top to bottom.
I know. It's not like we're in the habit of taking our sources to task. I mean, we usually just use things come up in the media. That's our sources, as good as anybody else's. But then we usually click through. When we can, to the original source and sort of, take everything in between with a pinch of salt. But the mistakes and misinformation in this one just rattled our cage a bit, didn't I suppose?
Really did.
Yeah.
I think, as Michael said, we should say right at the top, we should say that there are people involved in this article. Dan Snow, for one, historian. Yeah. And Dr. Heather Sabir at English Heritage, who are both great people doing great jobs. It's just what this journalism has done to all the facts. I will just
show the article headline so we know where we are. So before we whiffle on. So we're talking about the Express Online, and I wasn't reading the Express on purpose, honest. it was Andy Waring. It was one of those things that just came across. We have news feeds that feed us stuff, so we know what's going on. So anything to do with prehistory often comes up in our news feeds, and that one did. I'll just read. The important thing is Stonehenge builders branded just as clever as us after stunning 4,500-year-old discovery. Now that what was the bit in that headline that made me go, what? Wait, what? Who? Just as clever as us.
Right, just as clever as us. Well, nobody ever said they weren't, and the fact that branded just as clever as us. After 4,500-year-old discovery, bad grammar in the first place. Discovery wasn't made 4,500 years ago, but it's just branded just as clever as us. They have always been presumed to be just as clever as us, but just not as technologically advanced.
Yeah. So we'll get on to the source. I know what the source of that was, but we'll get on to that, and it's far more interesting than what's in the headline. In the meantime, though, we will probably get a little bit exercised about this, but I hope that you take it in the vein of us not debunking, lacerating the Express or what was the name of the journalist? I'm sorry.
It's Callum Hoare.
Okay, it's not a putting the boot in. Because people in glass houses shouldn't. We're as vulnerable as the next person to making an error, a mistake, and all the rest of it. It's not about that. It's about being aware of just how far off the rails these things can go when a few misused words and mistakes, crop up. So, so hopefully this is a sort of a public service broadcast,
service announcement, yes.
rather than putting the boot in. So what we're going to do, unless there's anything else you want to put in place before we start, is actually go through it sentence by sentence. It's not long.
Yeah.
However,
it's not long,
there's plenty to say about it.
Yeah. Go on then.
Because there's something to say about virtually every sentence in the article.
Yes.
Anyway, first, Stonehenge builders have been branded as just as clever as us by an expert. I know who that expert might well have been, but he's never mentioned in the text. After archaeologists made a stunning find near the ancient monument. So we'll leave just as clever as us for the moment, but it leaves you wondering, clever what? Because they
found some holes
this
in the
thing.
ground.
Yeah. And at the root of this, I think that's what we forgot to mention. That for those who know, at the root of this article was a discovery over the past few years. Although the paper was published in June last year about it, was a discovery of a huge ring of massive pits around the henge of Durrington Walls. That paper was published by Vince Gaffney et al., and I'll leave a link below when we've finished to our interview with Vince Gaffney. So that's what this article is about.
Yes. When it says this new discovery, the discovery was actually made in 2015-16. So, it's not new.
Yeah. Anyway, so article says, dating back more than 5,000 years, the stone arrangement found in the fields of Wiltshire, if you're looking hard enough, has baffled researchers for centuries. So the stone arrangement, it means Stonehenge. Fair enough. Last year, a team of experts discovered a ring of large shafts near Stonehenge that form what is believed to be the largest prehistoric monument ever discovered in Britain. Right, okay, so there's two things in that sentence. Last year, no, the work was not done last year. The work's been done over the past 8 years. They were first discovered in 2012. From the geophysics exercises that they were doing as part of the Stonehenge Hidden Landscapes project from 2012 to 2013. So the implication there is it all happened quickly. It did not.
No. And it keeps talking about Stonehenge, and it is nothing. It's all right.
Yeah, interesting point, actually. When they first discovered them, they thought they were nothing to do with Stonehenge or Durrington Walls because there was nothing to marry them to. They seemed so out of kilter or unrelated that they didn't put two and two together because they only found the ones in the south. So let me just, before we proceed, let me just give you a schematic of what we're talking about here. Aerial picture with the things in question superimposed upon. Stonehenge and the avenue up in yellow up to the top upper left. Upper left. Greater curses stretching down. Right in the middle, the red circle is the bank of Durrington Walls itself. The little spot just to the left of that is Woodhenge. Now, if you can just trace around the picture, you can see little yellow dots. And those are the locations of the pits that were discovered. Each one of these pits being, and I'm glossing over a lot of detail here, approximately 10 meters across by 5 meters deep. And that's
big holes.
They are big holes. And that's what we've got. That's what we're talking about. So That sentence has formed what is believed to be the largest prehistoric monument ever discovered in Britain. Actually, there's 2 points there. Rupert, you take one.
You can't call holes in the ground a monument. They're not. It's just entirely giving the wrong impression. They haven't found the largest prehistoric monument ever discovered. It's just completely misleading and very clickbaity.
And the word "largest" there, which is it's okay if you're thinking merely about the diameter from one side of that circle of pits to the other.
You've got some stats, haven't you?
Well, I have got some stats. I have indeed. But that's fair. If you're talking about the area inside that or the diameter, as I said, that's fair enough. That if you take that as a whole, then that's very, 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 very big. But each one of those pits, as I said, 10 meters across, 5 meters deep, in their entirety, that's just over 5,000 cubic meters, which is roughly 2 Olympic swimming pools full of chalk that's been shifted. And in another point, it disappeared somewhere. Okay? But Durrington Walls, in the middle there, the red bit, the banks on that is the equivalent of shifting 20 Olympic swimming pools full of chalk. So in terms of volume, weight, etc., it's the rings are a bit knocked into a cocked hat there. So, yeah. Not probably the largest ever, depending on which metric you use.
Yes. Go on then. Romping forwards. Tests carried out on the pits suggested they were dug by Neolithic people more than 4,500 years ago. Well, tests. They took a couple of core samples.
They took core samples, and there were datings taken from 5 samples, 3 pieces of shell, 2 pieces of bone. The dates ranged from 6,000 BC to about 1,500 BC. So there's absolutely nothing to go on there. And none of the experts, nobody has claimed a date for the pits based on that data. The only basis for the date going forward is in that it's related to Durrington Walls. The date of Durrington Walls is known pretty well, so it's dating by association. Yeah,
it's a presumption, and it's stated as a presumption. They make no claim for accuracy on that at all. And when I say they, I mean the archaeologists who've been involved in all the work. So that's that one.
Yes, I mean it's a fair assumption on that basis, but it's not based on the tests. It couldn't be, bearing in mind what actually came out of the tests. Experts believe the 20 or more shafts may have served as a boundary to a sacred area connected to the henge.
Well, we don't know who Callum Hoare is referring to as the experts here, because we've spoken to a number of people who were involved in this, including we've spoken at length with Vince Gaffney, who was one of the lead archaeologists on the project, and well, he certainly hasn't said that. I don't know who said this.
I don't know.
There's a boundary to a sacred area. What sort of boundary does it make when you've got holes that are how far apart are the holes?
Well, they're completely arbitrary distances from each other. Some are quite close together, those in the south, and some at the north are spread out. And of course, some aspects of the entire circle don't have any pits in them at all. So,
no, indeed,
it's not look like something that's created as a boundary. Actually, Vince, I've got a quote from Vince here. He says. In our interview with him, he said, "It's only science up to the point you interpret things." So think on that a moment.
Yeah.
And so
we do love it, don't we? I mean,
and it is absolutely fair to report that experts believe that blah blah blah, and they may have put a good deal of thought on it into it. But even though people are denoted as experts, you've still got to take it with a pinch of salt. I say again, it's only science up until the point you interpret things.
Yeah.
It's a really lovely quote to dwell on.
Totally, and then science suddenly becomes art. It's true.
Yeah.
So historian Dan Snow spoke to English heritage archaeologist Dr. Heather Sabir about the breakthrough during History Hits Stonehenge documentary. She said, "You probably heard that they found an incredible landscape feature just up to the northwest. Well, if they're talking about these pits, which is around Durrington, then it's actually from Stonehenge, it's up to the northeast, not the northwest. So you could have checked that one. That's sending you off in the wrong direction."
But,
of course, it's possible that on the day, Heather actually got that wrong. We all get directions wrong from time to time. The other east.
Yeah, I certainly do. I can't tell east from west. So I'm not going to cast any stones in that direction, I'm afraid.
No, but the thing is, as a journalist, I'm sorry, but as a journalist, that's one of the things that should be checked. And if it's wrong, don't put it in as a quote. Just, put the accurate information in. It's just sloppy.
Moving on, the Durrington Walls. I wouldn't refer to it like that.
The Durrington Walls.
It's just Durrington Walls is massive, much bigger than Stonehenge, but they've found something even bigger again. I think we've sort of dealt with that one.
Yeah, we've done that one. Yeah,
it's bigger on a different scale. That was through geophysical techniques. There are so many techniques you can use today. Yes.
Do you know what?
True.
Actually, that's true. That's actually that's a correct sentence there.
Yeah, and many techniques have been used on these O's.
They've been able to plot a series of pits that takes it into the monument of Durrington Walls, but also Woodhenge, which is a smaller version of Stonehenge.
That sentence does not make any sense whatsoever. It's completely mangled.
It's gibberish. I think this is just a big exercise in cutting and pasting and getting it all wrong. Woodhenge couldn't be less like Stonehenge, other than the fact that the words are similar. And I suppose you could say that Woodhenge is smaller than Stonehenge in as much as the words are the word is one letter shorter. But no, their only other similarity is that they're round.
Yeah. That's about it. I mean, it is a mangled sentence. Whether you series of pits that take it into the monument of Durrington Walls doesn't make sense.
I don't actually know what that
means. But
means.
also Woodhenge. No, I don't know what it means at all, because the pits are way outside. They don't take you anywhere. They're a circle. And Dr. Sabir detailed how the sheer size of the monument has led to speculation over how advanced the civilization was. Right, here we go. This is a complete misinterpretation, shall we say, of something that a speculation that Vince Gaffney made, because the distance of the pits from Durrington Walls is so irregular. It is not a perfect circle. But what Vince managed to work out is that the distance from Durrington Walls of each of the pits is a measure of the energy needed to walk to those places, not a measure of, it's not the distance that was measured, but it was the pacing that was measured. Because the terrain is different depending on which angle you set off from Durrington Walls. And that observation led him to speculate about what they were using for tallying, for counting. And he related it to some ethnographic studies of other cultures, that use number in a completely different way than we do. We've got this sort of abstract notion of mathematics and stuff, and we don't use tallying per se. and he was merely speculating about a different way of counting, and that, it seems to me, has been taken to mean was an argument for advanced civilization. Different civilization, fine.
Yes.
And advanced in their own terms.
But it just seems to me that the journalist has taken quotes from so he's watched Dan Snow's documentary, and he has just taken sound bites and written them down completely out of context.
Yeah.
So how the size of the monument has led to speculation over how advanced the civilization was. There has been no question for decades about how advanced the civilization was. The fact that they've found some more holes in the ground has not added to the speculation of how advanced they were in any shape or form.
But that's what I think that Vince's speculations about counting have led to this extraordinary headline. Just as clever as us, that one, that rather patronising.
Indeed.
Yeah.
But it ends on a peach, though, doesn't it? I mean, she added,
here we go.
We think this circular arrangement that is now pits held upright timbers, a timber monument like Stonehenge. She's talking about something completely different. Now Callum Hoare is saying that Heather is talking about the same thing, but he's quoting her talking about a completely different feature or series of features of Durrington Walls itself. She's talking about some post holes in the ground that did hold upright timbers, but what size tree would you need to fill a hole that was 10 meters across? He's just quoted her as talking about something completely different.
Completely different. Yeah, there is no evidence. There are hints, but there is no strong evidence that any of these pits. Remember, we're talking about shafts that are 10 meters wide.
10 meters in diameter.
Just think about that for a moment. They are huge.
And 5 meters deep.
No.
The
pits that Dr. Sabir is talking about are the pits that were discovered earlier as a result of the Stonehenge Hidden Landscapes project. And this was Mike Parker Pearson here. They got very excited round about 2012-13, I think, thinking they'd discovered a brand new circle of stones. Because the first interpretation of this discovery of pits, and we're talking about pits that are under the circumference of the Durrington Walls bank, no further out than that, that they interpreted as the sockets for a ring of stones. But later, as Vince says, we corrected ourselves, held our hands up, we got it wrong. No, although they were packed with chalk, they originally held vast, big timber posts in a huge circle. Let's diminish this at all. This whole thing is absolutely fantastic. Durrington Walls, the posts, the pits, the ring of pits. It's mind blowing. Yeah. But this article seems to just succeed in diminishing the whole thing.
It just misses the point of everything. I have to say that, right at the very beginning, I presume, because I don't tend to know journalists' names really, and so I thought Callum Hoare was just going to be a rookie journalist who, it's like putting your homework together at the last minute. He had to get this in, and so he threw all this together. But he's actually a seasoned journalist who is the senior special projects reporter at the Express. So, as far as I'm concerned, he should have known better.
But I hope we don't, sort of come across as if we're scoffing or being holier than thou about this. It's just that this is so off the rails, with misuse of words and measurements and talking about stuff. I just hate it when things get mangled and when the real story is much more interesting. than the hyperbole.
It's when it's clickbaity that I mean, I know that we can be clickbaity sometimes as well.
We do our best.
But sometimes it's because you want to involve people in the excitement of whatever it's about, but not even to give a clue as to what's actually going on here. The fact that people have been branded just as intelligent as us because of some discovery. Click here to see what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's a bit cheap.
Anyway, I think the kind of mission accomplished of taking that apart. I hope it's kind of a value, and I don't think we'll ever do this again. It's just this is a one-off. We're not going to get into the habit of getting articles and debunking it, because that's not our job. That's not what we want to do.
I think, in fairness, we should also say that this is the first time in all the years that we've been looking at any of this kind of stuff, it is the first time we've ever seen an article that has just been error after error after error running through almost every sentence. So there's probably going to be no need to do it again, because we've never seen anything quite like it before. I hope Dr. Heather Sabir is not too upset about being so badly misquoted, if she's even seen this article. And same with Dan Snow. I mean, he'd be quietly horrified, I would think.
So two things. I've been trying to. I haven't really done a good job of keeping an eye on the comments. But thank you, guys. Thank you for being there, and thank you for watching. Thank you, Blue Eyes. I appreciate you saying that. Blue Eyes says, we don't come across like that at all. You're keeping us correctly informed. Thank you. Angry Kitty says, I'm actually curious about what exactly was found in the bottom of the pits. Here's something to get absolutely straight. The pits have not been excavated. These pits only exist in geophysical data from
what's the word? Ground penetrating radar.
Ground penetrating radar.
That kind of technique. So they know the size of them, the scale of them, the depth of them. They can calculate volume and what have you.
So after the data was gathered, back then, it's been a process of querying the data since then. And actually, it was two separate studies or gatherings of data coming together. The Riverside project was more down towards the south, but Wessex Archaeology had data to the north. And so it was only when those two bits came together that it was realised that there was a circle there. There have been boreholes taken in one of them, so samples have been extracted, but not one of them has been excavated, and we don't know when that is likely to happen, if it is. It could go on, about how extraordinary the cooperations that resulted in this stuff. It's quite, people weren't looking for pits.
No. But
originally, they just emerged out of the data.
If we
they weren't looking for anything really.
We'll be making this into a 2-hour program.
Yeah.
I mean, the stats overall and the discovery overall is breathtaking.
Doing the vast scan of that huge area was like, climbing Everest. They did it because they could. Because at that particular time, there was a pan-European cooperation going on between the not the Werner Herzog, that's somebody else.
Werner Herzog, what a fine director he is too.
No, but an institute in a German university, I think, and our own lot. Mike Parker Pearson, etc. And because they could bring all these pan-European resources together, it was a completely unique, one-off thing, being able to do the work in the first place and get all this data. You can imagine all the, what are they called, the four-wheel drive, 4x4 scooters things, dragging
Quad
the
bike.
radar, ground penetrating radar stuff and whatnot,
bikes.
running all over the Stonehenge landscape. Yeah. No, it wasn't the Max Planck. Good guess, though. Excellent, David. Yeah. Yeah, I'll probably put it in the next.
Just seeing one of the comments up there, Connie Fogel, who said, "Has Stonehenge ever had another name?" I shouldn't think the builders called it Stonehenge, but since then, no, we've always called it Stonehenge, and ironically, it's the only
with different
henge that
spellings,
isn't
I think,
actually a
perhaps. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
should clarify that. That's cheap of me. Stonehenge. Every other site is called a henge because Stonehenge was called a henge first. Henge refers to the lintels because it comes from an Old English, or is it Middle English, of hanging
hinge,
from the
same derivation as hinge.
And but henges became the word for something with an internal ditch and an external bank. But with Stonehenge, they're actually the other way around. The ditch is on the outside. So Stonehenge is the only thing with henge in the name that's not a henge.
Death of a Salesman, Honey Boy, it was originally called Domino Square. Well, that's new.
I'm missing something.
Further explanation. Yes.
Yes.
That's gone over our heads. Anyway, at 30 minutes and 31 minutes and 30 seconds, I think our work here is done.
Our work is done.
This is a bit longer than a normal flash. But as I say, thank you. Unless anybody's got any particular questions, watch this space, of course. If they do get round to excavations, please do like and subscribe. I'll leave a link to the part in our interview with Vince Gaffney when he talks at length about the pits. That is far more fascinating than this article was.
Yes.
No apology needed, Death of a Salesman. No, any engagement, we love it. We love it. And that's it. I know not what else to say, really.
No, just thank you. Thank you for listening. And, we do try to keep it real. So we felt it had to be done. There you go.
We do our best. And I'm looking for the button to click that'll give us the nice outro. I'll tell you what, okay. I'll do it from here. So with that, we'll say thanks a lot, guys, and see you the next time. Bye for now.